Yo, my guitar is completely thrashed and taken apart because I thrashed it and took it apart. No surprise, I did it to myself. But it was for good reason. So on my Telecaster projects that I'm doing right now, I needed to route a neck pocket because when you're building a guitar, once you put the neck on there, that's where you can figure out where everything else goes. So the easiest way for me to make a template for a neck pocket was to take something that I was already using a Jackson neck on and just copy the route that I've put in here because I don't have the template that I used anymore. So I took it apart a few weeks ago, put a piece of MDF on top of it, followed the route that I've already made to make my template. Now it's time to finally put it back together. It's been sitting in my room since like August of last year when I gigged with it. Set up in drop C sharp for all the Paramore stuff I was playing. But it's time to bring it back. I think I've decided I'm just going to set it up in standard. I like having different guitars for different things, but this one it ends up sitting in my bedroom because I just like looking at it the most. It's something I've always wanted. It's a project that I made before I had my chest surgery in 2017. I pushed to have it done so I could have it just because I wanted to look at it. I just love it. I love it. And there's some things I did wrong, like direct mounting all my pickups. I don't know why I did that in everything I made, but fixing that. But it's an interesting story. I'm going to take it to the workbench in a minute, clean up the frets on this. This is a DK2 neck. I don't know what year. It's got a 9.17 stamp. I don't even know what that means. Some Jackson guys will know, but there's no serial number or anything on it. Usually there's like a stamp in the fretboard or something if it's a factory second. It doesn't have that. But yeah, today is going to be work day for this guy. Clean up the frets, clean up the fretboard, fix a few things that I didn't do right the first time, and just personal preference things, and get it back at least playing and sounding good again. Well, the first thing I want to do is just clean off the sawdust that I can. I mean, it's really, the paint job is not great. I rushed it, did it a little thin, didn't clear over it when I painted it a few years ago. Well, not a few years ago, like 6 years ago now. But I honestly kind of liked it. I was going to do it just like flat black with the binding. I thought that would look cool. And it wet sanded it, got it flat, and it looked good. But then I went to buff it, and that's when it gave it kind of like a distressed look because it burned through in areas. And then cracked a little when it shrunk over time. It looks good. It looks good to me. One of the things I like using is a toothbrush for all the hardware and crap. Especially Seymour Duncan and Vader, because like I said, I was young and dumb when I did this guitar. I really don't like the way this thing sounds. But now that I'm doing modeling a lot, amp modeling, I feel like I can dial in something around the pickup that sounds good. Yeah, just just clean the gunk off this thing before I start putting it back together. I'll go full in whenever I get it all back together. But just get that thing out of the way. Going on to this, I'm not even going to tape off the fretboard really because I don't need to sand any of the frets down. It's still pretty level. I know it's not under tension right now, but yeah, it won't change much once I put strings on it. I'm going to be running 9s in standard slinkies. It's just what I prefer on Jackson, on Fender scale length stuff. I don't know. I bought into that. You know, tough guys play 10s for so long, but in reality, it's all based on scale length and tuning. Scale length and tuning, really. Biggest things you need to focus on. But I'm going to go ahead, polish up some of these frets, condition the fretboard, and we'll have a look here in a minute. Like I said, I don't know if you can see that coming through on camera very much, but it's shining. Didn't take much work, just a little bit of grime. It's been neglected, and I feel bad about that. Two of the best tools that I use, plastic scraper. That's killer. You gotta get some of those. Those are ridiculous. But also just using this Music Nomad fret polish. Stuff works wonders. Using the same brand. I think I got it in a kit. I definitely got it in a kit somewhere. Just reminds me of lemon pepper wings from Wingstop. It smells so good. Makes me hungry. But Clean it up a little bit. When I put it together originally, I sanded the finish off the back of the neck because unfinished maple necks are just my preference. But you can kind of see where some of that grime is getting in there and staining it a little bit, which is fine with me. Some of it there I could actually scrape off again. I'm just now noticing, and I probably will hit that again with the scraper. But yeah, I will say I noticed some of these inlays are put in so sloppily. Neck's fine, no complaints about the neck, but the inlays are just ridiculous. I'll add some pictures in there to show you just how bad they are, how much filler is in there. Next thing to do, set the neck back in this thing. I got a little bit of a shim in there to add a pitch to it. And another one of my favorite features of this thing is Jackson neck plate, no serial number. That's pretty killer. So get that all together. I'm gonna go ahead and put a pickup ring in here. I don't know if you can tell, I never put a pickup ring in it, so there's no holes. That's not a problem. So get that thing mounted in a pickup ring, get the neck back on it, then we'll start putting the bridge together and strings and start, it's gonna have to be intonated again. Set it up for 9s and standard and intonate it. Bolted back together, just kind of cleaning it up a little bit more. Not that I'm gonna drag any more hair on it. Like I said, toothbrush is a great tool, especially on anything like this where you can really get in there. Clean it up, pickup ring is in there. Next bolted on. Next thing I'm gonna do, get some strings, just get them all on there. Doesn't really matter how much tension's on them right now, because I'm gonna have to move it into the other room and start dialing in the setup and the intonation again. It's really not that hard. The only reason why it's gonna be a little more intensive this time is because I'm switching gauges and tuning, and I've had everything off the guitar. It makes it a little more difficult, but not that much more difficult. There's some tricks I'll show you, especially when it comes to setting up the bridge without having to block it off. I don't know how much detail I'll get into it in this video. I may have to do a whole video on how to do that because it doesn't seem like there's enough people in the world that know how to do it. And everybody that you bring up a Floyd Rose to just wants to complain about it. And they're really cool and they're easy to use if you know what you're gonna do. So I'm using Ernie Ball 9-42s, and this is the way that I prefer to do it. Ball end through the tuning machine. That way that it's already locked in. Set your length, usually about the fine tuners. Clip it, bring it in there, and you're all good. So we've got it to this point. All the strings are on. Sounds horrible, but that's fine. What we're gonna do is start the tuning process, which this part is the hardest right now because, like I said, we've changed gauges, we've changed tuning. So first, I'll kind of explain how a Floyd Rose works. This one is set up, it's going to be floating, which means it'll have movement backwards and movement forwards. And the way to achieve that is not really hard. You're gonna wanna set your tuning first. And then the springs on the back of the tremolo system are going to counteract your string tension and help the tremolo float in the position that you want it. And how you decide that is once you set that action height, you want the tremolo plate to be parallel with the top of the guitar. And I want to find a better tool or something better to use to do this, but everything varies between guitars. And what varies is in between the block, move it forward again, in between the block and the route of the guitar, you're going to want something to block it off to where the tremolo cannot move that way at all. And crank these springs down as hard as you can get them. And I've kind of already done this, so I'll flip it back around and show you why. Because that way, the tremolo is set the exact way that you want it, exactly parallel with the top of the guitar. And then you'll just set your tuning here, bring these strings up to pitch. Tuning will be perfect, but the trem's going to be blocked off. Then what you'll do, you'll remove that Allen key from the back, and the tremolo is going to look like that. It's going to go dive way back, and the strings are all going to go sharp. But from there, all you have to do is back off these two screws, and as you back them off, the tremolo will naturally go back into that resting position where you had it, and that's where it'll get to the tension that you set with your tuning. And it's really that easy. And after you do it a few times, you can do it with any combination of springs. Adam from FU Tone has a really cool video. You can do it with any amount of springs, any tuning, any gauges. It's super simple. And once you figure it out, you will master Floyd roses and everybody will be jealous of you. They'll think you're a genius. So we'll do that, and then I'll show you a little bit about how to set the intonation on. Adjusting the intonation on these, what you want to do is make sure that the fretted note on the 12th fret and the open note match. And if they don't, if the fretted note is a little bit flat, I believe that's when you want to loosen the saddle, move the saddle forward. And in between each intonation adjustment, you have to slack the string, kind of move it out of the way, loosen that, slide the saddle either direction, clamp it back down, and then tighten it. It's another one of those things that's more difficult when you switch gauges and tunings, but do it once, it's set. Plus, once you figure it out, you can kind of tell how many millimeters you need to adjust for certain amounts of either the note being off sharp or flat. And then once you figure it out, all your friends are going to think you're like a master guitar tech. Something like that. So it's back together, set up, nines, standard, like I said. Super easy to intonate it. Hopefully it wasn't so long-winded that it discourages anybody from trying, because it really is easy to figure this stuff out, and I know you can do it. I know anybody can do it. But I'm happy to have this back. I wasn't lying. I have a guitar in almost every room of the house, and this one sits in my bedroom, like on a stand beside my bed. Because one, I'm just proud of it, like the first guitar I've ever made. But also, like, hugely inspired by Marty Friedman. A lot of people think Robin Crosby because I'm tall, and for some reason they think that. When really, when I think of him, I think of the Double Rhodes, but another tangent. Yeah, I'm proud of this, man. Exactly how I wanted. Like, it took me a long time to envision it and get to the point where I was comfortable enough, like, really finishing it, pushing myself to finish it. So it's another one that I'll never part with, and probably keep it configured the same way, maybe change the pickup. I really don't, now that I'm doing a lot of amp modeling, I really don't think it sounds that bad. I really don't, but yeah, very proud of it, love it. You know, usually when you see these come up and they're real, they're like 5 figures with a reverse headstock, and it doesn't look as good to me on a Jackson. On a Gibson, the reverse Firebird headstock with the reverse body looks good, but this is how I like it. So don't know what else to do, but maybe play you one more riff. So let me see what I can think of here.